Albert Einstein presented with a headdress and pipe by members of the Hopi tribe at the Grand Canyon, 1922. Einstein and his wife were visiting there, and the couple was convinced to pose for a photo with the Indians in front of the Hopi house. In 1902, Annie Oakley posed with an unknown co-star in her new stage show, The Western Girl. A year earlier, she suffered terrible injuries to her back in a train accident and had to stop touring with Buffalo Bill's Wild West. This American Indian had his Plains rifle, knife scabbard, belt, and riding quirt tacked with brass. A classic example of the popularity of brass tacks among American Indians. Did stagecoach travel have different classes of ticket? Yes, they did. First class rode all the way. Second class had to get out and walk on steep grades. Third class passengers not only had to walk, but also push on the hills. Whatever class of ticket these pioneers had, they faced a tough journey while traveling on this stagecoach from Deadwood, Dakota Territory, circa 1880. There are no known verified photos of Crazy Horse, but this fact didn't dissuade John Coleman from giving his take on a portrait titled Crazy Horse, 1876. A buyer decided it was a pretty good effort and spent $75,000 on it. Cowgirl Joella Irwin, an early performer at the turn of the 20th century, Ms. Irwin performed in a variety of events, but was most famous for her relay race riding. A miners' boarding house in Palmetto, California in the 1870s. The miners would share small rooms, using common wash basins, towels, chamber pots, and possibly communal washrooms. She often dressed like a man, but had a woman's desire for Wild Bill Hickok. When people called her Calamity Jane, she probably got so puffed up she bought drinks for the house. She was her own woman. Fort Selkirk, Yukon, 1898. It was a key trading post on the upper Yukon River and terminus of the Dalton Trail. For many years, it was home to the Selkirk First Nation. Bigfoot Wallace, 1880s. San Antonio's William Alexander Anderson Bigfoot Wallace stood 6 feet 2 inches, was a former prisoner of war in Mexico with Samuel Maverick and John Twohig, served as a Texas Rangers captain, and drove a mail hack between San Antonio and El Paso. 4 sisters photographed at their sod house in Custer County, Nebraska, 1886. Each of the sisters eventually claimed their own homesteads. To fulfill the Homestead Act's residency requirements, the sisters took turns living with each other. How rare to find a photo of any Victorian-era woman smiling, much less an American Indian woman smiling. But this happy Navajo woman obviously loved her life, a wonderful example of the humanity that existed beyond the cliches of the era. The first day the Homestead Act went into effect, January 1st, 1863, Daniel Freeman filed his claim on land near Beatrice, Nebraska. 73 years later, in 1936, this claim became the site of the Homestead National Monument of America. Nellie Bly was the most famous female journalist in the nation. When Nellie was told that it was impossible for a woman to go around the world in 80 days, she was angry and took up the challenge. Nellie completed the trip in 72 days and then wrote a successful book about it. Sidney Pollack's direction of Robert Redford and Jeremiah Johnson is considered one of their finest collaborations and the best mountain man Western film ever produced. It was filmed entirely on location in Utah. Dr. George Goodfellow, the surgeon of Tombstone, Arizona, a real legend in his own right. Back in the days when gunpowder settled more arguments than words, he was the one for patching up bullet holes and setting broken bones in that rowdy frontier town. William Moore and his family stand in front of farm animals, sod house, and windmill near Sargent Custer County, Nebraska, 1886. The family came from Elkhart County, Indiana, just 2 years before. California's Charles Blackbart Bowles, 1888. He robbed Wells Fargo stagecoaches at least 28 times between 1775 and 1883, including several times along the historic Siskiyou Trail. The remarkable thing is, Bart was deathly afraid of horses, so he always walked to and from the robbery sites. Survivors of the Battle of Little Bighorn and their wives in front of the Custer Monument on Last Stand Hill at Fort Custer, Montana, 1886. Gatling Gun Battery at Fort Lincoln, Dakota Territory, 1777. Photographed by Frank J. Haynes within the year following the 1776 Battle of Little Bighorn. Nobody messed with Stagecoach Mary. Hard-drinking, quick-shooting, former slave. She never missed a delivery, and Montana will never forget her. Paulita Maxwell was Billy the Kid's girlfriend. His love for her was well known in Fort Sumner, and he hoped to marry her. But a bullet from Pat Garrett's gun terminated that dream in the home of her brother, Pete Maxwell, on July 15, 1881. September 21, 1777, prospector Ed Schieffelin files his first mining claim after discovering silver ore on a high plateau between the San Pedro River and the Dragoon Mountains in southeastern Arizona Territory. He names his stake Tombstone. A Pueblo mother with her laughing baby, circa 1912. A wonderful example of the humanity that existed beyond the cliches of the era. Chief Isaac of the Chilkat Tlingit poses with Donna Walk in front of their store in Dia, Alaska, 1897. As traditional middlemen traders, the Tlingits specialized in freighting for the miners. The ever-popular 73-lever action was a favorite with plainsmen of all stripes, like this buckskin-clad, late 19th century Westerner with his 1873 Winchester carbine. Nellie Larrabee proposed to Crazy Horse in the summer of 1877 and subsequently shared his lodge with Black Shawl, the chief's first wife. The multilingual Nellie kept Crazy Horse informed of the news and gossip circulating through the villages and at Camp Robinson. The officers of the 7th Cavalry and their wives enjoyed a quiet evening at the Custer's home at Fort Lincoln in 1875, with Margaret Custer Calhoun playing the piano. The Kinnear Express stagecoach operating from Tombstone to Bisbee in the 1880s. Within a month of arriving in Tucson from Kansas in October 1878, J.D. Kinnear started Kinnear's Express stagecoach service to the new Boomtown of Tombstone. Did the term, a shot of whiskey, originate in Tombstone and refer to miners using an actual bullet to pay for their drinks? Cowboys in Tascosa, Texas, enjoy whiskey and shots and beer in glasses in this famous and rare interior photo of cowpunchers drinking at a bar. Billy the Kid and his fellow regulators were hiding in this rock house at Stinking Spring on December 23, 1880. When Pat Garrett and his posse attacked them, killing Charlie Boder and capturing the Kid, Billy Wilson, Tom Pickett, and Dave Rudabaugh. A champion rodeo star in the 1920s and early 1930s, Vera McGinnis and two of her rodeo circuit friends wear their favorite hats, boots, and western wear, all of which are popular again today. Margaret Maggie Custer Calhoun lost her husband James, 3 brothers, George, Thomas, and Boston, and her nephew Henry Armstrong Reed at the Battle of Little Bighorn. She had a successful career in dramatic elocution before passing at the age of 58 in 1910. Nearly 140 years after Jack Dalton arrived in Alaska Territory to seek his fortune, his name may not be as well known as Lewis and Clark's, but for his accomplishments in trail and road building in the 49th state, he should be considered one of the greatest and most legendary backwoodsmen and pathfinders in the state's and the West's history. Cowgirls Drinking with Bottles, 1880. Life on the frontier was especially hard on women. They spent their time trying to cooking, washing, taking care of the kids, and trying to keep from getting pregnant every 9 months or so. 3,000 arrests, including his own criminal son, and only 14 kills at the height of gunslinging in the Wild West. This insane feat was done by none other than Bass Reeves, a freedman turned U.S. Deputy Marshal. November 2, 1889, 2 lawmen are transferring 9 prisoners, including the Apache Kid, from Globe, Arizona, to the territorial prison at Yuma. The Indians overpower and kill their captors, Gila County Sheriff Glenn Reynolds and Deputy William Hunky Dory Holmes. In 1887, 21-year-old George Nellis made his transcontinental journey in 72 days from Herkimer, New York to San Francisco on his 52-inch high bicycle. The newspaper man beat the previous record by several weeks. Indigenous American actress Dell Bolton was cast as Swan, a Flathead Indian woman who becomes Robert Redford's ill-fated wife in Jeremiah Johnson. A group photograph of Elizabeth and George Custer with a few of their friends was taken on the porch of their quarters at Fort Lincoln. Lieutenant James Calhoun is seated in the middle of the top row, while Margaret Custer Calhoun is seated to the right of him.